China and Nigeria seek to jointly fight ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. INEC rejects APC's request for fresh election in Bayelsa State. Party heads to court. In international news, Storm Dennis shuts down parts of Britain with gusty winds and heavy rainfall. And in sport, Amokachi to replace Bitrus Bayanan as new technical director.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Justice Zanwolu Chikere of the Federal High Court Abuja has stopped the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) from deregistering 31 political parties. In its ruling on Monday, the court ordered INEC to stay action on the matter with immediate effect. INEC had deregistered 74 political parties early this month, leaving only 18. Chairman of the commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, earlier said the action was carried out after a review of the performance of political parties after the 2019 general elections to see which parties qualified to exist. As China and Nigeria celebrate 49 years of diplomatic relations, the two nations have organized a public dialogue to address the health emergency on coronavirus and to jointly fight the outbreak. Reporter Kelechi Emekalam has the details.
A public health emergency dialogue between Nigeria and China underway in the Nigerian capital, Abuja. Fighting against COVID-19 is at the heart of conversations here. It's coming at a time both countries mark nearly 5 decades of diplomatic cooperation, and they highlight the need for support through the health crisis.
Facts in recent times have shown that this disease is being contained, and we on our side have very little to fear. Our aim today is to find a way to let it known to the rest of our compatriots that Nigeria-China bilateral cooperation is too important to be distracted by coronavirus or any other virus.
And China's ambassador to Nigeria maintains that prevention and control remains his country's top priority.
Guided by the vision of a community with a shared future for mankind, China is fulfilling its responsibility for the life and health of its own people and for global public health. China's effective response has averted the further spread of the virus in the world.
Chinese scientists are making effort to produce vaccines to confront the virus. For the past 49 years, Nigeria and China have remained one of the greatest allies, with around $85 billion in trade between them. One of the reasons why cooperation to end the scourge remains a priority.
Senior Media Special Assistant to the President, Garuba Shehu, says the dismissal of service chiefs will not happen anytime soon because the President is weighing all options and alternatives. Shehu revealed this while answering questions on the current bandit attacks in the Northwest. He said the President, being a military man, is working very hard with others on multiple solutions to the challenges at hand. The spokesman says at least 3,000 soldiers will be commissioned within the next 2 months to join the battle against insurgents. Shehu says 1,000 pieces of military hardware are currently on the way to the country to strengthen the war against insurgency and banditry. 2,000 new airmen will also be added. Shehu says Nigeria's security challenges were given serious attention at last week's African Union Summit in Addis Ababa. A cross-section of ethnic-based groups and others have been mounting pressure on the President to replace the service chiefs to give new impetus to the battle against insurgency. Many people have argued that the service chiefs' continued stay in office beyond 4 years has led to low morale in the military. The All Progressives Congress is on the way to the Supreme Court after the Independent National Electoral Commission ruled out the party's request for a fresh election in Bayelsa State. INEC's Director of Voter Education and Publicity, Oluwale Osaze Uzi, told journalists the commission has concluded work on the Bayelsa governorship poll. He also said the commission had never granted such a request from any party and would not entertain that of the APC. APC National Chairman Adams Shomale has demanded for a fresh election in a letter addressed to INEC Chairman. He says the swearing-in of PDP candidate Doye Duri is unconstitutional. Oshomale says the People's Democratic Party does not meet the mandatory constitutional requirements. Good news. Flights can now land in Lagos after weather had prevented such for a few days. Aviation Minister Hadi Sirika says improvements in weather has enabled more international flights to resume at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. For more than 2 weeks, all international flights were diverted to Accra as a result of inclement weather in Lagos. The minister explained that the diversions and cancellations were the result of highly inclement weather and not a peculiar problem with Lagos or Nigeria. Coming up, African news. World Food Programme says it's struggling with fundraising for Zimbabwe's food shortages. And later, international news. Parts of Britain shut down by Storm Dennis as gusty winds and heavy rainfall ground flights and closed rail lines.
You are watching ANN.
Correct, Costi. Give me 100 naira rice and add 888 join up. On top. Yes. Yes.
Which time I go be this now? Not be the same 100 and when everybody pays his money.
They no use code.
Which code?
Oh boy, no get it for market to get better wolf. 888 now be the code yo. Have you?
Madam, I beg, serve me 888.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Down to African stories. World powers and regional actors overseeing Libya peace truce have warned against the deteriorating situation in the North African country. At a security conference in Munich over the weekend, the United Nations Deputy Envoy to Libya, Stephanie Williams, said last month's truce that called for a halt in foreign interference in Libya had been violated more than 150 times already. German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas says those who break the UN arms embargo on Libya must be held accountable. The Bank of Uganda has maintained the key benchmark lending rate at 9%. The central bank says the policy decision is necessary to support economic growth, which is likely to be affected by the recent outbreak of coronavirus in China and an invasion of desert locusts in the East African region. Reporter Michael Baleke has the details.
Uganda's central bank says although economic growth prospects remain positive, the outbreak of the coronavirus may affect the growth outlook.
There is considerable uncertainty regarding the duration and severity of the coronavirus outbreak. If it persists for an extended period, the effect on global economic activity is likely to be larger than currently projected.
The central bank says the immediate effect of the coronavirus on Uganda will be through imports. 25% of the country's imports come from China, and many of these imports are raw materials and capital goods.
If you don't import capital and raw materials, how do you then end up producing? So either it automatically means that retail supply of goods that will come through will be expensive, and therefore the cost of production will be high. Alternatively, if you're importing consumer goods, they require to be high, the price will be high.
Preliminary estimates from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics indicate that this financial year, Uganda's economy will grow in a range of 5.5 to 6%, Public infrastructure investments such as electricity, coupled with improved agricultural performance, will also contribute to economic progress. On the domestic scene, Bank of Uganda says constraints to agricultural production, including uncertain weather patterns and the current invasion of the desert locusts, could also weigh in on economic activity. The locusts have plagued several countries since the start of the year, including Somalia, Ethiopia, Yemen, and Kenya, and have crossed the border into Uganda. The UN has warned of possible high levels of acute food insecurity, with millions of people requiring food assistance.
That has now a knock-on effect on people's ability to pay back loans, that has an effect on people's ability to invest or to engage in other productive activities.
But despite the global and domestic risks, the Bank of Uganda says the next 2 to 3 years, Uganda's economy is expected to grow at an average of 6.3%, supported by lower lending rates from the central bank.
The United Nations World Food Programme says it is struggling to raise necessary funds to obtain needed resources to ease food insecurity in Zimbabwe. The agency says it would be unable to reach the 4 million Zimbabweans who may not have enough to eat. Faraya Uwakutuya reports.
The World Food Programme requires a staggering 200,000 metric tons of grain to disburse critical food aid to about 4 million people over the next 6 months, but it's not sure it can reach them all.
In order to scale up to the 4 million, we'll need additional resources. So we may not be able to reach the full number. We're planning to get up to 3.5 million this month. But we may not be able to, and to continue that through April, but we may not be able to get to the full 4.1 million if we don't get additional resources.
The United Nations agency is $103 million short of its $212 million appeal to meet the hunger emergency, which shows no sign of letting up, as projections for the current season are also bleak.
Ideally, we would be hoping that harvest in April would begin to alleviate the food shortages in the country, but preliminary information indicates that the late arrival of the rains meant that many crops wilted in the fields. Farmers didn't have enough additional seeds to plant, and so we're not expecting good news about the upcoming harvest.
The Zimbabwean government is procuring its own grain under a separate state food assistance program. It recently lifted a ban on the importation of genetically modified maize as it attempts to mobilize the 110,000 metric tons of maize needed each month to make sure that nobody goes hungry.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to international stories. Parts of Britain were shut down on Sunday as roads and railway lines were flooded by Storm Dennis. Heavy rainfall and strong winds large parts of the country. The MET office issued a red warning for rain for parts of South Wales on Sunday morning. This is the highest level of its kind. The storm caused disruptions at Edinburgh, Glasgow, Newcastle, Southend, Stansted, Heathrow and Gatwick Airport over the weekend. Another 200 flights were cancelled, affecting at least 25,000 passengers. Rail services were also suspended in South Wales and parts of England and Scotland. British experts say Storm Dennis can bring more damage to the country than Storm Ciara, which dumped nearly 200 millimeters of rainfall and gusts reaching 156 kilometers per hour last weekend. Hundreds of homes were flooded and more than 500,000 persons were left without power. Although Western medicine is still the main treatment for coronavirus in China, the country is looking inwards to what can be achieved with its traditional medicine. And some patients have been treated with Chado medicines and they have recovered. Son Tianyong reports.
The war on the coronavirus has brought in forces that are used to being in battle. These military medics are using Western therapy and traditional Chinese medicine to tackle the disease.
In many cases, when traditional Chinese medicine was applied, patients' symptoms were eased and their recoveries sped up significantly.
Dr. He wrote out 3 prescriptions for patients at different stages of the disease. Each consists about a dozen herbs. Some may reduce coughing and fever. Others can boost the immune system, which is vital for patients to overcome any illness.
TCM can be applied at each stage of the treatment. It can either enhance recovery or slow the development of the illness from minor to critical condition.
The hospital has so far received about 540 coronavirus patients, mostly with an average case of the virus and its symptoms. Nearly half of them have been cured and discharged. The very first patient to recover was treated by this department.
One of the patients was on a ventilator. His condition wasn't good, but after applying some Chinese medicines and moxibustion, now he's getting much better, even regaining his appetite.
Jan points out that Western therapy is still the main treatment due to its fast effects, but together with the slow but sure TCM, they can be a powerful combo.
Dr. He says he expects these ancient methods to play new roles in the fight against the coronavirus and hopefully help patients get better soon.
It's been a few weeks since U.S. President Donald Trump unveiled his Mid-East plan, which Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu applauded, while Palestinian Prime Minister degraded and rejected. But the plan is still getting reactions. The Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Swatiyah said over the weekend at the Munich Security Conference the U.S. plan was no more than a memo of understanding between Netanyahu and Trump and would be buried very soon. Swatiyah said the proposal would fragment a future Palestinian state, leaving it with no sovereignty and allowing Israel to annex large parts of the West Bank. He appealed to other countries to reject the Trump proposal, but he said Palestinians are, quote, open to serious negotiations, end quote. Up next, sports. Amokachi to replace Bitrus Bewarang as new technical director. Please stay with us. Welcome back. This is ANN News and Sport. Nigeria Football Federation may soon announce former Super Eagles assistant coach Daniel Amokachi as its new technical director. Amokachi is to replace Bitrus Bewarang. Amokachi was recently appointed Nigerian football ambassador by the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development. The board of the Nigeria Women Football League, headed by Aisha Falode, is making a case for the league board to be given a percentage of the FIFA legacies to Nigerian clubs whose players were paraded at the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup. NWFL Chief Operating Officer Alhaji Ayo Abdurrahman says the NWFL had continued to organize Standard League in the Premier Division, Pro League and lately the Amateur League without any form of sponsorship in the last 14 years. Odio says the NWFL deserves due recognition and should not be left out of any club incentives. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a pleasant evening.